Yeah. I was
Okay.
they're much more animated.
Okay, where's she at?
So now this was warm location. Warm location. She's out with
This is the work session on SMG's contract. Please take a seat, grab one. We'll start going around and identify the people that are here. Debbie?
Debbie Osiander.
Harriet Drummond.
Paul Holman. Mike Gutierrez.
Patrick Quinn. Dick Trainee.
Bill Starr. Fred Kaltenbach, purchasing officer.
Ralph DeWare, municipal, assistant municipal attorney.
Dennis Ware, municipal attorney.
Almost got demoted from almost there.
Elby's here, and Jennifer, I hear you're with us.
I am.
Where are you at, Jennifer?
Huh?
Where are you?
I'm in Hawaii.
So what's the weather, ma'am? Because we want to be jealous.
It's light overcast, but blue skies, and no snow yet.
Thank you, ma'am.
Feel bad for you.
So, the SMG contract. Who's leading the discussion on it? Purchasing?
Fred Kaltenbach, purchasing officer, and I'll be doing a minor presentation and then open it up for questions.
Thank you.
I hope that many of you received the package that was prepared and dropped off at the clerk's office for your use. I'm going to highlight just a few things. And back on the 18th of December, the Assembly directed the purchasing office to convene the bidding review board to review the award intended to SMG for the management and operation of the George M. Sullivan Arena, Ben Boeke, and Dempsey Anderson Ice Arena. We were able to secure quorum, and the board convened on January 18th at 1 o'clock. There were 6 board members present. They had quite a package to review. They were given the request for proposal, the addendum, the successful proposal, the fee proposal, the intended award, and they were also given a second package which was marked confidential, which contained the unsuccessful proposal as well as the evaluation as performed by the evaluation committee. We began the meeting with a quick review of the requirements for the bidding review board and the requirements of the evaluation of a request for proposal, and emphasizing that there were certain elements that could not be revealed in public. Therefore, later on in the meeting, there was an executive session where the bidding review board was able to ask questions concerning the evaluation, the scoring, etc. Just for your information, Anchorage Municipal Code 7.20.060 reads, notwithstanding Chapter 3.90, the names of the responding firms, contents of the proposals, tabulations, and evaluations thereof shall be open to public inspection only after Assembly approval of the contract award. It also authorizes, upon request by a competing proponent, the recommended awardee's proposal shall be open for review. Therefore, we do announce our intent to award a minimum of 7 days prior to Assembly approval or prior to award. And the unsuccessful proposals or other interested parties may have the opportunity to review the proposal and request a briefing by the chair of the evaluation committee. As a matter of information, the unsuccessful proposal did come in and review and evaluate the proposal, and he was also at the bidding review board meeting, and he did bring forth several elements. I have highlighted those in the attended AIM, and the chairman of the chairman of the bidding review board also submitted a statement highlighting those things that were considered, and the bidding review board unanimously agreed with the purchasing department to continue with the award and make that recommendation to the assembly. That has been done for presentation on the 1st of February.
Thank you. Bill?
I just want to be clear in the process. We, as an assembly body, basically kicked back the conversation on the award as it related to the bidding review process that took place. You just summarized that. So I want to be clear. The RFP itself didn't have a copy of the future contract in it. I mean, so when you negotiated with SMG, well, I'm trying to separate two things here, and one is that I have issues that relate to what's in the contract itself that we're about to give SMG, and Mr. Trainee, maybe you can help me, Chairman, here, is that I have issues with the contract itself, and I don't know, I'm not prepared to talk about that in the forum today. This really is in the process where we just got their presentation was because we said we're not happy with the way the award was issued. Is there a distinction here?
Through the chair, from an evaluation standpoint and a negotiation standpoint, we do give a form of the contract with the RFP, and it was included with the RFP, and it is standard provisions. Now, that form basically allows for attachments, which is the scope of work, the fee proposals, and other documents that are submitted with the request, with the proposal as a response to the request for proposal. And all of these things are subject to negotiation.
Yeah.
So negotiations did take place, and were there some changes in the contract itself? I'm sure there were.
Yeah, I guess the question to you is that we're reviewing the process of the bidding review board and their determination, which is attached to this letter. They said all is well, but what's the forum for actually the award of the contract? Is it on their agenda for Tuesday?
I think it's coming to us, it's on our schedule. Dennis, on the contract, what are our options? To approve it, to not approve it, what's our liability? If it's gone through this process and we as an assembly decide we simply don't want to give that contract approval. I know on the fly, Dennis, I know, we talked about it earlier.
Well, I don't want to have you interpret that's what I said. What I want is time to review the contract, and I don't have one of my committee members is in Hawaii, the other one's in Palm Springs, and we haven't, as a budget and finance review, we haven't looked at the contract. So,
what's wrong with you? You've got one in Palm Springs, one in Hawaii, and you're here?
So maybe if we just let me some latitude here, what happens if come Tuesday I request that it get kicked back to the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to review the contract itself? Because that's nothing we've talked about.
Dennis?
Mr. Chairman, I'll have to look if you want to kick it back. I mean, we have a contract in place with SMG on a temporary basis till June, something like that.
A couple months one, didn't we?
Yeah.
Authorized like 3 months, 90 days, something like that.
Typically, as I recall, when we go through this RFP process, we present the award to you and present the material terms to you, but we don't necessarily at that point have a final contract. So if there's some issue with material terms, then we would need to know what those are from the Assembly's perspective to be able to advise you as to what should or shouldn't be done, what can and
Okay, I'll try, but that's just me as an individual, and so what I'm saying is there a problem from the administration perspective, and maybe this is a question you get back to me, is if I say, hey, I'd like to bring it into committee and talk about it. What you're asking us to do as an assembly is approve the contract itself. Prior to the meeting before, we didn't even have the contract. It got emailed to us maybe the day before. I'll bet you half these assembly members haven't read it. So is the contract in our packet over there? Because the action is approve the contract. That's what you're asking us to do. Who's read it? Typically, if we're getting ready to deal with this, well, I appreciate it, Mayor, but how does it work? So
yeah, I don't.
It's like the labor contracts.
Right.
We spent time incurring where our liabilities were, where we had issues, and in this case, my concern is, are we leaving some issues on the table that can come back and bite us? And I'm confused on some clauses. Mind you, I've only read it maybe once, 15-minute review.
Again, I think the posture of this particular matter is that we're asking you to give us authority to proceed with this particular vendor. The final terms of the contract have yet to be nailed down, so this is not your approval of the final contract.
Are you sure?
Debbie?
I'm sorry, that confuses me.
Me too.
Me too.
So you're saying that we're gonna get to see the contract? And vote on it? That's
No,
not my
that's not what I-
understanding.
That's not what I said.
Okay, my assumption all along is if we don't like what you're proposing, then we vote no. And we tell you generally what you want, and then you can go renegotiate according to what we want to get a yes vote. So I'm apparently not correct in my analysis.
No, I don't think that's, I don't think I'm disagreeing with you.
Oh, okay. It seems to me that if there's something fundamental that he doesn't like in the contract, the best bet is to vote no. But you're saying you don't know if that's the case because you don't know what his issues are.
That's true.
Okay.
I can't advise him whether he should vote no or not. I don't know what his issues are with the.
Well, you read the contract, didn't you, Debbie?
No.
For a few minutes tonight.
No, I know. And I'm not being facetious here, but that's my illustration. We haven't done it. Jennifer's on the phone, we haven't done it. So, not try to waste the work session here. Is that I'm happy that we said the public's concerns were, did we handle the bidding review process correctly up until this point? And, okay, I don't mind that. That really was never my big issue anyhow. My bigger issue is what's in the contract is my challenge. And so I guess, Mayor, I didn't hear the answers. That's not the way it works. How does it work?
Well, the action before you on the first would be allowing us to essentially finalize the negotiations of the contract. We put out an RFP, and now we're coming to you and saying we've got a successful bidder. You're giving us the authority to negotiate final contract terms. Is that correct, Fred?
Does it come back before us?
No. Enter into this contract is what I think, Mayor, but
Yeah, negotiate and enter into.
What the mayor said is correct. It is, the assembly is approving the intent to award, if you will. The final terms have not been established. This is a very unusual case. I was asked by a couple of assembly members to give you a copy of the intended contract, and I did so. That's very unusual. We do not normally follow that practice. But if you have a particular issue with certain terms, two ways to approach it. You can approve the award of the contract with those exceptions to be clarified, or you can say no, and we can.
Can I keep going?
Go ahead, Bill.
We'll go back and negotiate those.
I'm concerned why it's a secret. First off, maybe it was a secret up until now because we now have the bidding review process, but everybody knows that SMG was the bidder per se. Why is what's in the contract we're about to authorize them to do work under, why is that not for public discussion? And you say, it's highly unusual that you have it. Back to the action that we're asked to do is approve this contract with SMG so they can go off and run the place for 10 years. That's what you're asking us to do.
Okay, through the chair. The negotiation process should be completed before any information is made public. I assumed when I sent that to you that the negotiation process had been completed. So some of this has been made public, and if you have some particular issues with it, I'm sure that those can be worked out. But it should not be, all the details of the contract, if we're going to be continuing negotiation, should not be made public. That's in violation of Title VII.
Bill?
I still want the opportunity for the committee to go specification by specification, line item by line item in that contract and say, yeah, that's the best interest of the city financially, or could we enhance that term, force a topic to be discussed that you guys negotiate incentives or different type of concerts or a different public use facility or upgrades, or that there's still issues that are flummoxing. I'll throw parking at you. There's a surcharge talked about for ticket sales. It says in the contract right now that there is going to be a parking surcharge attached to the ticket sales. Are we doing that? I don't have the contract with me.
I
and
apologize, I didn't remember that being in the contract.
I believe it is in the addendum portion of it as it relates to specifically the Sullivan. So if we're going to have a surcharge on each ticket sales, then why do we have the same similar language in there on their ability to manage and collect gate receipts for parking in the lot, as well as we give them the responsibility to do it and the benefits of the parking dollar that they collect? And I'm the first to say I don't have all of that in front of me, but that's one issue that I know I have a question on. Can we resolve between now and then? For my purposes, maybe, but Jennifer and Ernie and our Budget and Finance Committee, I think would make a better platform to have the discussion. So I'm asking again, what happens if we push it back another time to let that happen?
Wouldn't we give you 90 days authority to extend the contract with SMG if that one last assembly meeting?
Through the chair, you gave us 6 months.
6 months,
And the
okay.
contract has been written, extending it for 6 months. However, the contract does stipulate that upon award of a contract, that it will revert back to an effective date of 1 January because of the method of compensation. Compensation is based upon an annual budget, and compensation is based upon the profits made within that year. So
The road won't end on 1 February if we don't bring that issue up. We postpone it to another 7 years.
it will not have too
comments.
ill of an effect at this point.
You what?
I mean, I say the effect will not be that drastic at this point.
And I'll talk with legal. I just had one more point to make. I just had one more point to make in terms of if that committee meeting then has to be an executive session or how we handle that. But can I just do one thing here? Because
Go ahead.
I didn't want to cursory splash over the process here that the bidding review board came together, and I appreciate you guys facilitating that, and their opinion of that is, I think, how good government is supposed to work. Is we had a question, the assembly body said, go send it to a mechanism that works, and I think this one worked. I appreciate it. What I want to know in that, and not to look to overrule their discussion, was there was a suggestion that sometime halfway through or more than halfway through, the bidding criterion and the RFP criterion was significantly changed. The established RFP mechanisms, and somebody threw out a date that, hey, October 26th or something, we had a whole new packet with whole new terms. And that's what one of the bidders, the unsuccessful bidders, have said, is that it was a whole packet of stuff that was sent out, and it was all different. They changed the game, if you will. Did that happen?
Specifically, there was a pre-proposal conference with the questions asked. Proposals were initially due on the 7th of October. On the 4th of October, an addendum was issued extending the due date for proposals to the 12th. We are required to give a minimum of 5 work days from date of issuance to of an addendum to the bid opening or proposal due date. So we followed that criteria. There was no request for additional time or additional questions.
From them, but did the city change the bid criteria?
We put out a fairly large addendum. However, the majority of that addendum was nothing more than cleaning up language. There was some changes. The cost proposal portion of it, the pre-proposal, was changed from the standpoint of we actually gave them a form and said fill in the blanks. It filled in the blanks and it filled out the whole thing. So we made it simpler for them to prepare that. Now, we have now received a complaint that said you limited our creativity, and that is highlighted in some of the notes in the AIM. You limited our creativity, you limited what we could propose on. It's tough not to reveal things I'm not supposed to.
I don't want to either, but that's sort of the premise is that, and I'm only here saying I'll try to find out. One of the things I want to look at is, does the RFP criterion, does that turn around and start to match the contract? You know, we incentivized them in the bid process to say, tell us how much money you can provide for this, or how much revenue you think you can generate for that. Mind you, I haven't seen that part of it yet. But now we're saying, here's the contract that results from your bid, because we've sort of tailored the contract to your bid, and this is how we're going to turn that into money. Do they correspond would be one thing I'd like to know at that. Did we incentivize them and say, encourage them, don't limit their creativity? And they came back and says, here's how we're going to run the place, and give us a contract therein, and we can do it that way. I'd like to, how do we get to that discussion?
Both proposers, and this is touching on it, but both proposers added things to their proposal that were not a requirement of the RFP.
Okay.
Were they evaluated? The answer is yes.
All right. That's fair. I'm good with that.
For both
Thank you.
proposers.
Comments,
Just
first I'm
a
going to
quick-
Deb, to Elvie, and then I'm going to work my
Thank
way
you. Just
around.
really quick thing, Mr. Chairman. You made a statement right now that it's tough not to reveal stuff you're not supposed to. I want to remind you that you need to make sure that you don't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dennis? Anything? Debbie, you've been waiting very patiently, ma'am.
Bill, it sounds like the best thing is to refer it to committee and delay. I would share with you that when I was on the school board with Harriet, we had a design build award for a contract of school that was confidential, request for proposal, and we had 2 school board members sign a confidentiality agreement, and as such, my memory is that we were allowed, those 2 school board members, to sit in and review proposals. So that's just something to throw out there
I
if it gets
appreciate
to
that,
that.
Ms. Oceano. I don't really want to review what's already been decided by the bidding review board, but I think
No,
that,
you want to
and
see
we
the
haven't had a
contract.
committee discussion. I haven't brought it to committee prior because of this. I didn't want to prejudice this process.
Okay.
You know, so I'm happy with that consult, and quite frankly, I'm still flummoxed as to why we can't talk about the contract in public. You know, the whole point seems to be that, well, if we don't ultimately address it to SMG, the cat's going to be out of the bag what the contract was going to say. But we're about ready to approve a contract for a major facility that is a revenue generator, as well as has a lot of public exposure for 10 years.
Can I just, my understanding is that the contract that was part of the bid proposal is public, but the bids themselves, with the individual proposals bidded, is confidential. Is that inaccurate?
Contract wasn't in the bid proposal, Debbie.
That is not entirely correct.
Okay, sorry.
The unsuccessful proposal and the evaluation, the scores, the evaluation itself is not public. And I don't care what committee that you appoint, they cannot look at those things at this stage of the game. The successful proposal, the intended contract, can be public.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
That's all.
Okay, Paul,
Well, I'm not sure if this is,
been very patient, thank you.
I'm not sure if this is actually something we discuss here is germane, but as a person who patronizes particularly Sullivan Arena, but all the facilities that are being managed by currently SMG, and I suspect, of course, this is what we're seeing as the successful bidder here. You know, I'm concerned about maintenance. Is that part of the contracts? Is the upgrade and the maintenance on this facility? Because, you know, I walked in recently a couple hockey games and I'm looking at leaks around the roofs and stuff like that. Are these the things that are addressed, either in the RFP or in the contracting? I mean, I'm just curious, because these are some of the things that I'm really concerned with. Someone who we're about to enter into a 5 or 10 year contract, and we're dealing with, you know, maybe some issues that they're not even fulfilling now. What's to say we're going to engage in a long-term contract for the same kind of operator, for the same kind of industry? And I'm just curious about that.
Through the chair, would you like to answer?
Yeah. In the new contract that was, he released, the proposed one, it is addressed. Currently, it's just at a agreed, unspecified, you know, or amount of about $5,000. Anything over $5,000, we take care of it. Anything over or anything over $5,000, we take care of it. Anything under, they take care of it. In the new contract, we have said that it's a capital reserve is for major maintenance, and anything under $25,000 is SMG's responsibility. We use that from the state definition. Anything, if it's a little bit under, it's willing to negotiate, but it is, final say will be ours.
Because I mean, these are some of the issues. That's it for now.
Mr. Michaelis and then Deb.
Thank you. Just to address that question, one of the problems with the current contract, it doesn't clearly define the different types of maintenance and who's responsible. In this particular contract, we tightened it up. We came up with a definition, and we did it by monetary amounts, and to hold the contractor responsible for the maintenance of that facility. I agree. Over the years, it has been left to basically not be maintained the way our expectations should be. This will help clarify. Thank you.
Debbie, ma'am?
Do you remember, and Dick, I think I'm going to look at you on this one.
Is that because I have to be the oldest one here or what?
I don't know if you're the oldest one.
Institutional memory.
On the assembly I am.
All right, when the voters approved that contract with the horse people on Ruth Arcan Park, if I remember, we asked to see the contract later. I've got this vague memory at one point. And then we I thought, voted on the contract later. So my question is there any possibility of that situation where we could go ahead and say yes, but then once we saw the contract that was finally negotiated, we could deal with that separately? And I don't know who I'm looking at.
Purchasing? and legal. Dennis has his arm raised for the first time, and I don't think he's just
Doing it
fatting
for
the air.
exercise.
Dennis?
Mr. Chairman, Assembly members, I don't, whispering to my cohort next to me, I don't see a problem with sending you the contract as soon as this meeting is over with, because as I understand it, all the material terms have been hammered out, so you can see that and ruminate over it and decide what you want to do from there.
I think that would be good, so that we're not just guessing at something we can't even see or look at.
I've already sent it.
Oh, well, apparently,
Back in December.
Could you resend?
I'm sorry, I did send a copy of the intended contract back in December to all the assembly members. I believe you should have it.
Could you resend?
Yeah, what's the date?
We can do that.
Resend it, and then we won't lose it until it's, you know.
We'll take the confidential placard off if it's not. If it's not confidential.
I don't believe it was even marked confidential.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Was it?
My memory is we were told to keep it confidential.
Then I don't remember.
I believe you're correct.
So we have different interpretations. Any other questions?
I'll move to adjourn.
We don't need a movement to adjourn. With no questions, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for your time.
I can email her. Anything I email her, she'll get attachments.